Okay, so a passage from the textbook, chapter 30. Behind the search for every idol lies the yearning for completion, to seek a special person or a thing to add to you to make yourself complete can only mean that you believe some form is missing. And by finding this, you will achieve completion in a form you like. This is the purpose of an idol, that you will not look beyond it to the source of the belief that you are incomplete. An idol is for the purpose of distracting you so you will never consider or question the belief that you are incomplete. And that winds up being consistent with the material that we will read today. We will encounter this theme very often. The section is entitled The Christ in You from chapter 24. And there are a few ideas I want to bring your attention to up front so that when they appear, you'll recognize their centrality to this. And those ideas are all about the transition from doubt to certainty, from incompletion, a sense of inadequacy, to a sense of abundance and completion, from a sense of special identity to a sense of a Christ identity. Hello and welcome to Miracles on High Plains. My name is Jonica, and our reader for this session is David.
The Christ in you is very still. He looks on what he loves and knows it as himself. And thus does he rejoice at what he sees, because he knows that it is one with him and with his Father. Specialness, too, takes joy in what it sees, although it is not true. Yet what you seek for is a source of joy as you conceive it. What you wish is true for you, nor is it possible that you can wish for something and lack faith that it is so. Wishing makes real as surely as does will create. The power of a wish upholds illusions as strongly as does love extend itself, except that one deludes, the other heals.
Mm-hmm. So, wow, what an opening paragraph. Much that could be said on many different elements within the opening paragraph. What I want to do is draw your attention to something that is really deep and profound. So, we're going to start off right at the top. It begins with the first few sentences that the Christ in you, which is still, looks upon you and knows you as himself. So I want to pause for a minute and just realize that within your own mind, when you think of Spirit, Holy Spirit, or of the Christ, or of the Creator, it's often from the perspective of you relating to them, you relating yourself, what you think of as yourself, to the Creator. Well, I want you to consider for a moment the other side of that relationship, where the Creator, Holy Spirit, Christ, or the Father, is relating to you. It's as if you're taking their position and looking on yourself. You're no longer identifying with yourself, you're identifying with them looking at you. And how do they see you? Not the way your lower mind sees you, for sure. And it says here that Christ looks on you, whom he loves, and knows you as himself and rejoices at what he sees because he knows it is one with himself and with his Father. So, in summary, unlike the way we might look out to the Creator or into the Creator, whatever direction you have in mind, where we might feel a little overwhelmed, a little trepidatious, like not sure we measure up, however you view yourself. Unlike that view, the Creator looks on us with confidence and certainty and love and rejoices in our oneness. I think that's fairly easy to comprehend as an idea. What the Course is going to do, there's 7 chapters remaining. What the Course is going to do is increasingly invite you to take that perspective of the Creator towards yourself. So it's no longer, this is the great prison cell, called the ancient prison in the miracles, is that we're constantly in our own echo chamber, thinking of ourselves according to our own specialness, our own definitions. And wherever you go, you take that with you. And freedom is to no longer be bounded and defined by that echo chamber, but exchange it for the way the Christ sees you. And part of that, an aspect of that, is also that you wind up seeing everybody else as the Christ sees them. So now you're adopting Christ-like vision. This is the Christ in you. And for the remainder of the textbook until chapter 31, they're going to help us with that transition. I'm not saying that it begins right here in this paragraph, but certainly it speaks to it, the Christ in you. And what is the cost? What is required of you to make this transition? It's a really high price. You have to give up your specialness. You have to give up the definition that you've made of yourself, your own echo chamber that you carry around wherever you go. That no longer fits with your freedom in the light. That's what keeps you boxed and prisoned into your past. And so it's an exchange of something that is worthless for something that is worth everything. Well, that's quite a journey. Let's see how it can help us.
There is no dream of specialness, however hidden or disguised the form, however lovely it may seem to be, however much it delicately offers the hope of peace and the escape from pain, in which you suffer not your condemnation. In dreams, effect and cause are interchanged. For here, the maker of the dream believes that what he made is happening to him. He does not realize he picked a thread from here, a scrap from there, and wove a picture out of nothing. For the parts do not belong together, and the whole contributes nothing to the parts to give them meaning.
Mm-hmm. So again, deep ideas, but ones of which we've seen before. This opening sentence, the dream of specialness always means that you will suffer from your own self-condemnation. Just think of that like an equation in the Course of Miracles. If you want to maintain the ego's dream of your being different from all the other members of creation, then the price of that is that you will suffer. Why? from your own self-condemnation, because that effort to remain special cannot, it has to be defended constantly because it's so fragile. And even you will be critical of your specialness. You'll not live up to that dream. And so this is a very high price to pay. And ultimately is the fun. You're not giving up anything. You're giving up self-condemnation. So, this is not asking a lot. But strangely enough, people will hold on to this until the last breath. They don't hold on to their condemnation, but the condemnation is the effect of holding on to your sense of specialness. And all that seems, while you're in that dream, very real because you fabricated these worldview and self view yourself, and then you're unhappy within it, and you blame the external worldview for your unhappiness, when the truth is your mind assembled the worldview based on a thread from here and a scrap from there. It's a belief that the effect that your mind made up is the very cause of how you feel about yourself and about life. It is a prison. It's circular reasoning that winds up ensuring that as long as you continue to believe in your own illusions, you will continue to suffer from your own unhappiness. Your mind winds up being the cause of its own unhappiness. This need not be.
Where could your peace arise but from forgiveness? The Christ in you looks only on the truth and sees no condemnation that could need forgiveness. He is at peace because he sees no sin. Identify with him and what has he that you have not. He is your eyes, your ears, your hands, your feet. How gentle are the sights he sees, the sounds he hears. How beautiful his hand that holds his brothers, and how lovingly he walks beside him, showing him what can be seen and heard, and where he will see nothing, and there is no sound to hear.
Mm-hmm. So it really is psychologically and spiritually a quantum leap to suggest you shift your identity, the way you think about yourself. And with that comes the way you think about everyone. To shift your identity to identify with Christ, and then look at all the human beings in the world, including yourself, through Christ-like eyes. And here's the element that frees you. Whereas before, with our specialness, we suffer our own self-condemnation because we never live up to the specialness that we imagined for ourselves. When we identify with Christ, we see no condemnation that could need forgiveness. In fact, here's where you really have to work with a course for a while to realize there's nothing to forgive. I mean, in a program that's about forgiveness, you realize then that what has to be let go of or forgiven was an illusion to start with, and never was a reality, was never the truth. You don't have to forgive the truth. You have to forgive our fabrications, our illusions of specialness about reality. And so this is about an identity shift And what it assures us is part of the benefits of that identity shift is we inherit all the characteristics that Christ contains. For one, no condemnation that could need forgiveness. For two, a new way, a new perception of looking at the world. How gentle are the sights, the sounds, how beautiful the hands that hold his brother, how lovingly he walks with his brother beside him. So it's a shift not only internally in identification, but it's also a shift in the way we interact with the world externally. So let's just pause here for a moment and summarize what we're talking about. From the Course's perspective, we've all been condemning ourselves all our entire life. And along with that self-condemnation comes a real a relationship with others and the world that is anything but loving. When you start from self-condemnation, what extends outward is a projection of that. What we're talking about is a shift into our holy nature, away from our self-condemning nature. And with that shift into our holy nature comes all the attributes you would expect, including the way we interact, the way we regard ourselves, and the way we regard everyone else, and in fact, our very purpose in life itself. So this term, the Christ in you, will take on increasing levels of meaning, which represent your eternal selfhood. You are as God created you. You will increasingly identify with God's creation rather than your own dream of specialness. Now, many of you are well into that journey already. This here seems to point to taking it to the next level of identification, where all remnants of specialness, and hopefully this chapter has given you some clue as to areas in your own life where there's occasionally attitudes of specialness arise. We're talking about letting go of those dreams so that we become completely free.
Yet let your specialness direct his way, and you will follow, and both will walk in danger, each intent in the dark forest of the sightless, unlit but by the shifting tiny gleams that spark an instant from the fireflies of sin and then go out, to lead the other to a nameless precipice and hurl him over it. For what can specialness delight in but to kill? What does it seek for but the sight of death? Where does it lead but to destruction? Yet think not that it looked upon your brother first, nor hated him before it hated you. The sin its eyes behold in him and love to look upon, it saw in you, and looks on still with joy. Yet is it joy to look upon decay and madness, and believe this crumbling thing, with flesh already loosened from the bone and sightless holes for eyes, is like yourself?
Very dramatic language here. What really caught my attention here was a spark an instant from the fireflies of sin and then go out. So I have a little bit of self-confession here. So I'm going to an event this evening where there will be a network of people that I know, but whom I have not seen for several years. And several times during this week, knowing I was going to that event and looking forward to it, I kept wanting to be well regarded by these people. I kept wanting to be received with enthusiasm. Oh, it's so good to see you again. And I wanted to have my instant of sparkling light um, before them, to be regarded positively, to be special. I mean, I caught myself even though it hasn't happened yet, it's not until this evening, I caught myself imagining these wonderful moments where people said, "Oh, I'm so glad to see you," and it might be anyway. I think it doesn't matter what my form looks like or what your form of dream of specialists look like. The important thing is that you be willing to recognize it for what it is and let it go. And that a willingness to let it go is where our healing is, because the Holy Spirit will always respond in with healing when we're willing to let go. I saw a hand go up. Bob, did you want to share?
Thank you, Jonica, for saying that. I had a similar experience just before coming on the program here. Oh boy, I get to show myself. I'm thinking of glowing something more than I am. And I was able to see it. And I just wanted to thank you for exposing the reality of that, a flash of specialness or something. So thanks.
Yes. And thank you, Bob. And notice also how when we have those moments, it would seem to feel really good. Like we actually look forward to our moments under the spotlight. And what it really is, it's the dream of specialness is a certain type of attraction, but we don't realize underneath all of it is a desire to be different, and that cannot last. That, as this paragraph illustrates, that is something that goes out, and that identity as a special person, beloved uniquely by others, cannot survive the test of truth. We'll go on.
Rejoice, you have no eyes with which to see, no ears to listen, and no hands to hold, nor feet to guide. Be glad that only Christ can lend you his, while you have need of them. They are illusions too, as much as yours. And yet, because they serve a different purpose, the strength their purpose holds is given them. And what they see and hear and hold and lead is given light, that you may lead as you were led. The Christ in you is very still. He knows where you are going, and he leads you there in gentleness and blessing all the way. His love for God replaces all the fear you thought you saw within yourself. His holiness shows you himself in him whose hand you hold and whom you lead to him. And what you see is like yourself. For what but Christ is there to see and hear and love and follow home? He looked upon you first, but recognized that you were not complete. And so he sought for your completion in each living thing that he beholds and loves, and seeks it still, that each might offer you the love of God.
So, from my perspective, this paragraph has many layers of meaning, all of which we're not going to explore right now, but I want to suggest a few. Again, referring to that idea of kind of not switching places, but exiting your identification with yourself as you've always done and sitting instead in the chair of Christ and looking at yourself from a whole new perspective where you no longer condemn yourself. And it says here that Christ will lend you his hands and feet and eyes and ears, that the old you, this is deep, but this is meaningful. The truth is, maybe I'll speak in first person terms. The old me, the hands and feet and eyes and ears, were all wrapped up in a dream of specialness. They have no purpose. That they were pursuing illusions. They have no meaning. But when the identity shifts to the Christ in you, now the hands and feet and eyes and ears, which are no longer belong solely to me, but instead serve a higher power, a higher purpose, now have meaning. And what they see and hear and hold and lead is given light. There, I'll get my, and may lead you as you were led. So it's another way of saying your entire life narrative is subordinated and ultimately discarded so to make room for a life purpose, a new it's being resurrected into the present moment for a life purpose which you did not make up yourself, but which was a life purpose that was given to you by the Christ, where his love for God replaces all the fear you thought you saw within yourself. That's a pretty big exchange. Imagine that Christ's love for God becomes your own and replaces all the fear that you imagined to be true about yourself. Wow, that's a pretty good deal. That's like changing in an old car that barely runs for a brand new, luxurious vehicle. Sorry, not a great metaphor. And so, again, I did have a glimpse of this for a moment where my hands and feet and eyes were no longer the ones that the way I've always thought of them as being, as belonging exclusively to me, to do with whatever I wanted to do. But instead, for a moment, I glimpsed them as being like an agent for spirit, an agent for a higher calling, for the purpose that God has given us. And it was, for a moment, extremely freeing, because all the baggage that comes along with our own self-narrative was no longer there, and I was free. Freedom. And part of it, a big, major part of it, is making room for the love of God in your life, because all that fear about ourself interferes with the love of God coming into our awareness. And so it, and this is partly, no, not partly, this is why the Course says it's an all or nothing project. You can't hang on to 20% of your fear and make room for the love of God, because that 20% that you're hanging on to interferes with your realization of the light. It's really necessary that we become completely free. And this is what the Course refers to as finding your true self. This is awakening to the way God has always seen you. This is awakening to your higher self. One more thought here. I know there's a lot here, but that's the way it was written. And that is your sense of completion, which the Christ is offering us, and how that is contrasted with our own sense of incompletion, which would be, another word for that would be a sense of inadequacy. I'm not good enough there. I can't even live up to my own specialness. It says Christ sought for your completion and beholds it by seeing you as a part of every living thing, so that you become complete by having no barriers whatsoever between yourself and God's creation. Your completion involves the entire package. And Christ longs to offer that awareness to you as well. Yeah. David, you had your hand up.
Yes. I've been thinking about what you said in the beginning and relating to what's going on and reading and stuff. And you said, I'm going to a party or a gathering with a bunch of people that I haven't seen for a long time. And I really want them to think I'm special. And I was thinking about that. And what I said, what came to my mind immediately was, well, Jonica, if you go in and you treat every single one of them as if they are special, they're going to say, wow, that Jonica is really a special guy. And then I thought about, what's today's lesson? To give and receive are one in truth. So it's a different kind of specialness we're wanting to see, feel, and wanting them to feel. I don't want them to think, oh, he's a special ego. Look at that thing, them. But that you touch them with the Christ in you and see the Christ in them, you will be special in that way.
Indeed. Thank you, David. I'm writing that down. We do it. The Course uses the word special in two ways. One is the ego specialness that David just talked about, and in contrast with, we all have a special part to play in God's plan for salvation. I mean, God wants you to participate fully in his plan, and he has a unique plan for each one of us. For all the people that you know are a part of your part in his extended plan. These aren't people that the rest of us necessarily are going to come in contact with. And he views every contact you have as an opportunity for a holy encounter, for a healing. And so, yes, we all have a special part to play in his plan. And come back to what David said, all that depends on how you view yourself. If you view yourself as an ego specialness, well, then your interactions will follow that path. If you view your part as essential to God's plan for salvation, then your interactions will follow the path of your function here on earth. Okay, thank you. Let's go on. This is interesting because it keeps saying the Christ within you is still. What does that mean?
Yet is he quiet, for he knows that love is in you now and safely held in you by that same hand that holds your brothers in your own. Christ's hand holds all his brothers in himself. He gives them vision for their sightless eyes and sings to them of heaven, that their ears may hear no more the sound of battle and of death. He reaches through them, holding out his hand, that everyone may bless all living things and see their holiness. And he rejoices that these sights are yours, to look upon with him and share his joy. His perfect lack of specialness he offers you, that you may save all living things from death, receiving from each one the gift of life that your forgiveness offers to yourself. The sight of Christ is all there is to see. The song of Christ is all there is to hear. The hand of Christ is all there is to hold. There is no journey but to walk with him.
So I don't completely get the meaning here of what is being said, but what I sense is it has said now 4 or 5 times, he's very still, he's quiet. My sense is that he's confident in knowing the truth. He's not anxious or on edge about any of these matters. He's certain of this truth that he holds. There's a term that I originally heard of in unity, which is holding sacred space. And it was often given to prayer chaplains to just stand quietly and hold a consciousness of a higher place. We'll read about that on Monday, the meeting place, of holding an awareness of a higher place where we can meet our true selves. And Christ is quiet there, for he knows the love is in you now. There's no uncertainty whatsoever. Everything else is just a matter of time and decisions and willingness. And he's ready for this to occur in the present moment, in the now. And again, there's this emphasis on eyes and ears and hands and feet, meaning he's looking to operate through us. As far as I can tell, it's a sense of employing you in the physical layer to go out and do those things with the people that you know that would help the world, each one of them, to move forward in healing. And to do so, here's the key point, it seems, is his perfect lack of specialness he offers you so that you may save others and offer forgiveness to them. And so this is a new level of purpose. That's all there is to see, to hear, to hold, the only place to go. Kim, you had your hand up.
I just love so many examples of how God shows us the way to do things. And to me, what I see here is, what he's saying for me here is just show up, hold space, be quiet, versus trying to fix, trying to give opinions, trying to give advice. This is a model of what he is saying the answer is, right? Because so many times we want to do other things, right? Because whatever. And so this is just so moving for me that really it's just about showing up and holding space and loving.
Very good, Kim. Thank you. It really helps. I want to contrast what Kim just said with my own plans for tonight, where I'm going to encounter these people. I've already got some lines rehearsed in my mind of things I'm going to say, as if I can really know the future and what needs to be said. This is my specialness talking here. Clearly, there of, want to reassure people, what have I been doing these years? Where have I been? And in contrast with the Christ that's very quiet, is very present. It has no need for rehearsals, no need for dreams of specialness, no need to impress or pretend in any way. Noel?
I had a related experience the other day. I went to a Zoom meeting of a book club, and I had known some of the people before, but not some of the others. And the ones who knew me welcomed me very nicely. And then one of the members introduced me with all kinds of kudos. And I really felt embarrassed. I felt, gee, I have to maintain this image. And I didn't feel comfortable at all. I, I spoke, but it's like I had to be a certain way. The self-image that she projected, that yes, I wanted to embody, but at the same time, I wanted to feel much more natural. And so I need to do some work on that.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Just as you were sharing that, I thought of a way that sometimes unfolds. It can happen as if I were to say, and David is one of the most wisest and profound people I've ever met. And I was wondering if you could just say a few words. Well, all of a sudden, the person's on the spot to
Right. What are the expectations? And I have to live up to them.
yes, to it, and you use the word to maintain the image. And that's what specialness is all about, is maintaining an image. And can you imagine not giving any energy at all to that? Not being, as it says here, his perfect lack of specialness, he offers you so that you're not trying to maintain any image at all. It's very freeing.
I'll have a chance to enact that and live it next week.
Actually, yes, you will, Noel. And I submit that everyone in their next week will have a chance to enact and live this freedom from our specialness. In a broad sense, that's why we're here in this life, is to have a chance to free ourselves from our own making and live in the light of creation. So every encounter is an opportunity.
You who would be content with specialness and seek salvation in a war with love, consider this. The Holy Lord of heaven has himself come down to you to offer you your own completion. What is his is yours, because in your completion is his own. He who willed not to be without his son could never will that you be brotherless. And would he give a brother unto you, except he be as perfect as yourself, and just as like to him in holiness as you must be?
Mm-hmm. So this theme of a sense of completion versus an ego sense of being incomplete or inadequate arises here and will arise again and again. And it's a profound concept that hinges upon your identity. Because as long as one is seeking to maintain the image of a special person or maintain the image of your own making, then you're going to recognize that it's a dream that you've made up and it's incomplete, it's inadequate, it can never, it's not based on love, it's based on a sense of inadequacy or lack. And to exchange that for a sense of completion is something that you cannot do by yourself. It's a gift. And so Christ, it says here that of Christ, what is his is yours, because your completion is found in his own completion. It's a shift that we are now a part of a holy purpose, a holy mission, which involves all of creation. It's not unique to any one of us, it involves all of us. And you have the opportunity to enact that in the next encounter with your brother. Every encounter is an opportunity to recognize that all of us are vital to God's plan for creation. Who would be content with specialness when offered this gift?
There must be doubt before there can be conflict. And every doubt must be about yourself. Christ has no doubt, and from his certainty, his quiet comes. He will exchange his certainty for all your doubts. If you agree that he is one with you, and that this oneness is endless, timeless, and within your grasp because your hands are his. He is within you, yet he walks beside you and before, leading the way that he must go to find himself complete. His quietness becomes your certainty. And where is doubt when certainty has come?
Mm-hmm. So again, we introduced the concept of ego doubting versus spirit certainty and confidence and knowing. And it's the way A Course in Miracles uses the idea of certainty is indicative of the shift already having occurred out of dream of specialness into Christ consciousness. It's not certainty is not an intermediate state, it's a completed state. And you can't do this. This is not an intellectual endeavor. You can memorize these words, and that doesn't mean that you become certain, because it involves an internal shift from the thought system that you are so familiar with in your own private world to the thought system that is being gifted to you through the Holy Spirit and through Christ, so that you can lean on it instead of your own miscreations. And certainty comes from it. And here's the answer to the topic of Christ is very still. His certainty, his quiet comes from his certainty. There's no depth. So see if you can feel into that. The spirit, which is totally immersed in truth with no illusions whatsoever, sees the entire plan at all times, knows that everyone is a part of the completion, never has any doubts about any of that. And that's being offered to each of us, not to transform our own private world into a certain world, but to undo our private world and adopt spirit's certainty for ourselves. And with that, the mind comes to rest in a quiet that it could never have known when it was self-condemning, doubtful, feeling inadequate, feeling incomplete. It's a spiritual rest and quiet and peace that comes with it. And as it describes here, it has many other attributes as well. Where is doubt when certainty has come? Doubt is but an illusion of the past, which was discarded when certainty has arrived. And where does certainty come from? It comes from abandoning doubts about yourself and adopting Christ's certainty in its stead. This is the key to the quiet mind. The quiet mind comes naturally to the mind that has abandoned its doubts about itself and adopted Christ's certainty as its own. So I'm amazed at the message, the plan, the simplicity of this plan. Much more can be said. I don't know. Let's see. David, would you mind reading this?
Home of the Holy Spirit and at home in God alone, does Christ remain at peace within the heaven of your holy mind. This is the only part of you that has reality in truth. The rest is dreams. Yet will these dreams be given unto Christ to fade before his glory and reveal your holy self, the Christ, to you at last.
Now I remember the last line that David read from our section today was, where is doubt when certainty has come? Well, these dreams will be given unto Christ to fade before his glory and reveal your holy self to you at last. The doubts are given away to Spirit, who absorbs them into nothingness, for that's what doubts are, illusions of nothingness, and make room for the light of glory that reveals your true self to you, not the self that we spent doubting and condemning, but the self that we were created forever to be in God's plan for creation. Amazing. What a miraculous journey. And it's really from my perspective here, not that complex. We're just so eager in our ego confusion to try to hang on to the self-concept that we made. And just as it said earlier, we get cause and effect confused. We don't realize we're suffering because of the self-concept that we made. The self-concept we made is what causes us to suffer, not the external world. And so once this becomes, we learn that this is true, then the motivation to give up our dream of specialness is, I think it's really the easiest choice you'll ever make. To give up a dream of specialness, doubt, and self-condemnation for an awareness of the truth of your own light and love and of everybody else's role in it. What choice could be easier than the choice for love? So that's as far as we're going to read today. And the next two sections will build on this concept and further elaborate and reinforce many of the ideas we talked about today. So I would encourage you to go back and review this again. It takes me several readings for it to really sink in, and I hope you'll give yourself the gift of your attention so that it might sink in deeper for you. Thank you all. David, thank you for your reading. Namaste.
Thank you, David.
Namaste. You're welcome, everybody, and have a great time tonight, Jonica.
Thank you.
Also, Jonica, when I have pre-gathering anxiety,
Yeah,
I say to myself, I don't have to do anything.
it's true. I'm just going to be quiet.
Well, what would you have me say, and to whom?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. And until then, I'll just rest in quiet until I get.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Well, thank
See
you
you,
for your
everybody.
encouragement there.
All right. Bye-bye.
Peace and love.
Bye-bye.